Patty, now that Governor Hickenlooper has met with Attorney General Jeff Sessions, they've talked about marijuana and how it may or may not be looked at here in Colorado. Is it finally time for us in Colorado to exhale?
Oh, I think there was plenty of exhaling last week. I left the studio and drove down Broadway, and you get to Civic Center, and you're like, wow, no good is going to come of this, because at 1 o'clock, the line went around the block. They're going in one little entrance so slowly, and you're like, no one's going to get in there by 4:20. This is not being run well. And as we saw, the 420 rally was not run well. They're going to be, now we're seeing the repercussions of it. Hancock and the Parks and Rec Department, we're already looking at some of the park rules. This will be part of it, though. But clearly, if the 420 rally happens again next year, there will have to be some changes. And, you know, it is a celebration because, in general, Colorado's rollout of recreational marijuana has been pretty flawless. I mean, there have not been the problems people were predicting. As Hickenlooper told Jeff Sessions, you know, we aren't seeing youth increase. In fact, what we're seeing is old people increase, that it's senior citizens going for it, which he told Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. So it was great that Hickenlooper took the time and Jeff Sessions gave him the time. Sessions says they're looking at the Cole memo, which has really been what they've been following, the federal government has been following since 2013, which is that states that have legalized marijuana, prosecuting people in those states is a very low priority. And we will hope the Trump administration actually looks at what's happened in Colorado, where it's been almost all upsides, and will just leave this state and other states that have passed it alone.
Joe, it seems now the focus is less about the state and marijuana, more about how cities are handling it. And we used to talk about it was just about the stores or shops, where you're going to do. Now it's more about the events. And I think not only do we have the 420 event, which is still a big deal, obviously, in the city of Denver, but you're seeing the city of Denver trying to break out to more festivals. And while it's not a pot-related festival, the one in Overland Park, is still about entertaining and not so much protecting neighbors. What do you think the city of Denver needs to be looking at when it sees it's growing, but is it more about entertainment or is it more about protecting neighborhoods?
Well, I think the city of Denver is at a crossroads in the big picture. You know, pot was cool, but, you know, Facebook was cool, and now you're getting friend requests from your grandma. So, you know, pot's kind of headed down that same road. But I think Denver has to ask itself, does it really want to be known nationwide as the pot-tropolis? You know, I remember 20 years ago, I read a headline in Westword about Glendale that said, "Welcome to Titty City." And now every time I go to Glendale, I think of Titty City. So does Denver want to be known nationwide as the place where people smoke pot and trash parks? It was just a couple of weeks ago that we had the Right to Rest bill in the legislature that, you know, basically outlawed urban camping bans to let homeless people stay in the parks. Well, parks are public spaces, but we're getting to a point where we're deciding which public we're going to allow into the spaces. So it's a lot of pick and choosing, and it raises a lot of constitutional issues.
Ben, you've advised a lot of city council members with the help of their campaigns, even beyond that. As they look at all these issues, whether it's the permit regulations of the 420 event or Overland Park Golf Course, everything in between, what kind of advice do you offer?
Well, I think if I were talking to the mayor's office, I would tell them that they ought to tread lightly. I think it's very dangerous when you get into a precedent of picking and choosing who can come into a park. I think when you look at the 420 celebration, it's almost laughable that they are having such a hard time dealing with it. I remember when I was in high school, which was over 20 years ago, when the same celebrations were occurring, granted at a smaller scale, but it's not like there's some surprise that, oh, there's going to be people at Civic Center on 420. So the fact that they can't be better prepared for something that has been going on for literally decades is laughable. And then when you consider that they're going to do this enormous festival at Overland Park over the objections of the neighbors, it makes you scratch your head, frankly. How is it that they're not prepared for a smaller scale event that's been going on for decades, and now they're saying, let's do a much larger event, even though the neighborhood doesn't want it, even though every single type of idea like this has been flatly rejected, let's just put the for sale sign up and forget about it. So what I would advise is to tread lightly. I think that the citizens of Denver are getting pretty tired of constantly seeing for sale signs around their public land and you know, the ability to use our infrastructure. So, you know, I'm not sure what to advise them. Maybe don't run for office again.
Michael, as you look to what we've heard from Governor Hickenlooper and his meeting with Jeff Sessions, of course, it was just a meeting with the two of them, it seemed pretty optimistic. I think folks who were a little bit worried about it over the last 100 days or so at least have a little bit of relief. But do you take long-term relief from what we've heard so far, or is the jury still out?
I think the jury's still out, and I think even if you watch the interview that Governor Hickenlooper had, he wasn't fully saying, yeah, Sessions is on board with what we're doing here. And I think stuff like the 420 event, really puts Colorado under a spotlight. And anything that looks negative when the Trump administration is not really supportive of legalized marijuana is not good for the state. The Denver Post ran an editorial earlier this week that I thought was really good, talking about, in regards to this 420 event, that sometimes some of these people, it's time for them to grow up a little bit. And marijuana's been legal here for 3 years. This shouldn't be a protest event anymore. We have to worry about safety. We have to worry about the trash pickup. And really, I am glad, though, that Mayor Hancock said that this deep dive, into the security, into the trash issues, won't just be about this one event. It'll be kind of broad across the board.